Unturned is a fun and casual game. Your only objective is the one you set yourself, so people play and enjoy the game in different ways. However, there are certain things that constantly seem to happen that makes the player die a little on the inside. Today, we will be taking a look at the 10 biggest ones on vanilla. Now, I won't talk about problems like how buggy the game is, or the Unturned community that seems to be more toxic than Dead Zone itself. If I did, the list would look something like this. Items despawning in your face. Who would have thought that one of the most annoying things that can happen in a survival looting game is for loot to disappear into thin air in front of your face. Items can perform this world's worst magic trick called now you see me, now you don't. Looting is boring. There is no way around it. Brainlessly running in a circle and waiting for loot to respawn is not exactly fun. So when I finally find something worthwhile turned from a detonator into a knife, you can bet I will quit for the day. When you start playing on a new server, you don't have any ranged options. So when you introduce a zombie you can't beat without losing 30% of your health with bleed is downright painful. Even if you find a gun, you usually have 1 or 2 shots. And hopefully I don't need to convince you that spending them to kill a zombie is one of the most wasteful things you can do with them. When these guys spot you, or what's even more fun, spawn in your face, you only have 2 options. Run all the way out from the location you are looting, or eat the damage and stop the bleeding. And when you only have 1 dressing in your inventory, it's not much of a choice. Now yes, you could argue that you can easily sneak past them, which is fair and is the reason why it's not very high on the list. There is no worse feeling in Unturned than getting offline raided. Spending your time to build a base and grinding the loot is a lot of work. However, you are often rewarded with a sight to behold. So when you log on the next day to find out you were raided, entire time you spent playing can be thrown out the window. There is no interaction or epic base defense most players hope for. Your base is just gone and you can only look at what's remained of it. Most players usually quit playing on a server out of frustration. It makes players so mad that Unturned community is trying to somewhat address this problem by introducing Discord bots that alert you if your base is getting raided. For those of you that don't know, when you join a server, your character spawns before you can see anything or move. Every time you join a server, you are a sitting duck for anyone to walk over. Lost connection in a city? Good luck! You log in while your base is getting raided? Guess you'll die! Not only do you lose all of the stuff your character is carrying, you also get to watch your base getting destroyed. This often makes me wonder how useful Discord bot warnings really are. Joining the game while your base is getting raided is probably the worst time to join, unless you are confident they won't make it to your spawn point. But maybe I am biased here, since I constantly seem to lose connection in the middle of a city. People love to complain about stacked players wrecking them when they were unarmed, which depending on a situation is reasonable, but I guarantee that nearly all of the players that complain about it would backstab a player at the first chance that presents itself. Every time you try to be a good person and spare someone's life, you have to be aware that you are risking your own. You don't gain anything from doing it, aside from GigaChad status that nobody sees. It's a terrible feeling to spare a player's life, only to get betrayed by them a minute later. Most players can't resist the temptation of getting some free and undeserved loot. Like I said, looting is boring, and getting a chance to skip a huge part of that process in exchange for ruining someone's day is a small price to pay. Heck, some players might even consider it a bonus. Unturned has some of the worst melee combat I have ever seen in a video game. While it's important for balance, it does not make it any less annoying. In a game like Unturned, it's important that players don't feel cheated out of a fair fight. Items you grinded for are on the line, so fights should feel as fair as possible. When you spawn in game, melee weapon is your first source of defense. But as you probably experienced, Unturned melee fights are not only boring, they also feel unfair. And spending 10 minutes making it from one point of the map to the other, only to be sent back by a hit you could swear missed you by a mile, is annoying nonetheless. Huge teams. You either complain about huge teams or you don't, because you are in a huge team. Nobody enjoys playing when there is a team of 4 or more on a server, and for a good reason. Fighting big teams often feels like fighting a lost battle. This is because their huge bases often hang around places you need to loot to get better gear. So not only are you usually outnumbered, but your weapons are also outmatched. And don't forget the powerful positions bases can provide to the player. Now you could say, just wait for them to go offline, to which I say, players are not exactly happy being forced to wait for a team to leave, just to get a chance to, play the game. Even if you beat them, they can respawn and come back with a new set of gear. And good luck with that, because these players usually camp until their teammates come back. Random structures. One of the most annoying things a player can build on a server are these ugly flying structures. They provide players with one of the most powerful advantages in-game, and you can't get rid of them. That's because they are easy to rebuild and players don't get value when destroying them. And do you know who usually builds these things? Huge teams that apparently have nothing better to do. Listen, if you wanna play this game with 5 friends, I personally don't mind. Have fun, enjoy the game. However, when I see you building one of these things, I start to get concerned for your mental health. Campers. There is one thing that can be more boring than looting. For those of you that don't know, it's actually fighting campers. They usually get into positions in safe spots and wait for players to start looting. Then, they ambush them out of nowhere. And when I finally get into a fight with a player, it takes the life out of me to see that he starts corner camping in third person. You can't really do anything about this, except hope he actually decides to peek you, and at least in my opinion, dying to a squad guns blazing is more fun than fighting a passive solo player. Getting ambushed. By far the most annoying thing in Unturned has to be ambushing. Getting insta-killed is not fun in any game, especially if you lose all of the progress you made in the past hour. There is no interaction between you and the player that ambushes you, they simply kill you, assuming they don't choke. You can't really know when or where it will happen either. Just because you passed a place 20 seconds ago does not mean it's safe. Take this clip for example. I checked entire military base and even got on high ground to check for players, and still ended up getting ambushed in a place I passed not too long ago. There is no real way to avoid getting insta-killed, no matter how skilled you might be. I am not kidding when I say that most of my deaths are just me being ambushed. Now it's important to note that I often play casually and rarely play things safe. But even when I do take things more seriously, it's just a matter of time until it inevitably happens.